I've always wondered, what would it feel like to live inside a book? So today, I tried to live like the little prince. Well, hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or good night, whenever you're seeing this. My name is Jenna, and welcome to my channel, where I'll be doing and talking all things book related and goal related. And today is the first video in hopefully a series that I'm calling Novel Experiences, where I'll be taking one of my favorite books and trying to create a day out of it, whether it's particular activities that are directly from the book or just loosely inspired that has the essence of the story within it. And today it is The Little Prince, and I am so excited because this is my favorite story of all time. I was first introduced to The Little Prince about 8 years ago when I was a camp counselor during like an adventure camp with tweens, 12 to 15-year-olds. And in the evening, it was a sleepaway camp. My coworker would bring out this book on the very first week of camp and started reading the first chapter or two as a bedtime story for these campers. Both myself and pretty much all the campers were quite taken after the first chapter of The Little Prince. And after the whole summer of hearing the same 4 to 6 chapters from The Little Prince, I had to go buy myself a copy of the book. And this is actually the very first copy that I purchased. I have two of these. One of them remains in my classroom. I also have my classroom kind of inspired by The Little Prince. I made paper mache planets of the Little Prince's planet and then each of the ones that he visits with a little token to kind of symbolize what planet he visited. The only exception is the Lamplighter's planet. I realized when I was filming this that the lantern is missing. I need to fix that so that way it's not just this purple planet with nothing attached to it and nobody will know what it means. I don't have the geographer's planet, so I'm going to have to find a mini book and make one more planet and then my collection will be complete. I have decided to make a collection of The Little Prince, different translations, because originally it was written in French. And actually, I have been doing French Duolingo for about a year and a half. I had a little over 100-day streak, and then I had to have a surgery last year and was like sort of out of it for a week, and I lost my streak, which was super annoying. But now I'm almost at 300 days. And the reason I'm taking French in the first place is so that one day, hopefully sooner than later, I'll be able to get a French version of The Little Prince and be able to read it cover to cover by myself. So that is a big goal of mine that I am very excited for one day. And yeah, slowly but steadily, I'm learning French. But besides that, I just love collecting different cover art, different translations of The Little Prince. This is my absolute favorite gift I have ever received. I did Science Olympiad for a number of years, and one year I had a student on the team draw this and write all the team members on it. So these are all my books of different translations and cover art. So these are the books in my collection, and I think to showcase their differences in translation, I am going to read the very opening sentence. So this is Catherine Wood's edition, which was kind of the original English translation. It starts out as, "Once when I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent picture in a book called True Stories from Nature about the primeval forest." So both those books. And this translation starts out as, "Once when I was 6, I saw a magnificent picture in a book about the jungle called True Stories." So this version was by Richard Howard. And this translation is by Robert Hamilton and goes, "Once when I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent picture in a book about the virgin forest which was called True Stories." So it is just amazing to me and so cool that all of these different translations have even just a touch of difference in the very first line. And this version, probably the most different, by Irina Orshkovich, I think is how you pronounce it, goes, "A long time ago, when I was 6, I came across a splendid picture while leafing through a book about the virgin forest entitled Tales of the Past." So So even the titles of the book that the boy as a 6-year-old was reading was different from each other, which is kind of crazy to me. So it is really fun being able to read these different translations and get a slightly different story and kind of a richer perspective of this beautiful tale of the Little Prince. I believe on the front it says, "If you please, draw me a sheep." And this journal was given to me by my parents this past Christmas. And I haven't written anything yet because I keep thinking, I want it to be perfect when I write in it. And then my most fun version of the Little Prince book is this pop-up book. Pretty much every other page either has a little tab that you can open or pull, or something like this tree or the mountain that will end up popping above the rest of the book and just looking so fun and majestic in its 3D form. Little snake crawling up. And then my favorite is the very end of the last image of the Little Prince. Well, okay, now that I've shown you kind of my small collection of Little Prince books and items, we'll now go on kind of a Little Prince day. So we'll start our day with watering my little herb garden. I have 5 different plants growing, or at least they were growing, and now a couple of them are looking a little withered and worn out. Like my thyme was beautiful before, and now it's looking almost dead. But I revived my cilantro, so I have hope for my rosemary and thyme, and even possibly my basil. But we'll see if they end up surviving over the next few weeks. But I probably should maybe measure out how much water I'm giving them. I'm not really sure if that makes a really big difference, or if perhaps their tiny little pots are just too small for them. That's what my husband and I ended up doing for the cilantro, and maybe that helped revive them because they're looking much better. Popped into Trader Joe's to find a bouquet of roses and beautiful flowers. A lantern for my lamplighter planet, and I found the one that I originally had, but kept on looking a little bit and found actual lampposts just like in the book, so I decided to get that instead. Decided on creating some roses of my own, but these roses are going to be made out of book pages. I did this probably a couple years ago with actual pages from The Little Prince, but I didn't want to cut up any of my copies that I had, so I opted for just a random book that I was going to get rid of. Alright, once you have your pages cut into squares, you now get to do the fun bit of folding, which is also very easy. You get to fold it 3 times for each of the papers, and once you have them folded 3 times, you're going to make a little cut right on the corner, and you are going to curve that around so it ends up looking kind of like an ice cream cone. And you'll do that for all 3 of them, so you have 3 little ice cream cones. And once you have those ice cream cones that kind of tend to open up and look like little hearts, you're going to cut the tip off of all 3 of them. If you open them, you can see they do look like flowers. And with the first flower, you're going to cut 1 of the petals off. The second paper, you're going to cut off 2 of the petals. And the third one, you'll cut off 3. So you can kind of see I have them going in order of how many petals they have, because that will be important for the next step. Now you'll be able to glue them together, and after you have glued the edges together, and the very last one you'll kind of fold, the single petal, you'll just kind of twist up to be the very center of your rose. Then, kind of alternating the petals, you'll glue them, and honestly you can use pretty much any glue. I used hot glue for this. And after you have that, you have a super cute little rose. You can kind of curl the edges of the leaves with like a toothpick, works quite well. or you could just leave it as is. But yeah, that is a very simple but quite cute way of making a paper rose. I went to an aerospace museum in search of finding a plane that was similar to the one that the Little Prince author would have flown. And after doing some research and asking a volunteer to kind of help scout one out for me, we found a Lockheed Lightning. It was not the same type as the one that Antoine would have flown, but it was very similar. So this Lockheed Lightning version right here, I think is the P-85. He would have flown something similar to that. Actually, when he went missing in 1944, he also flew several other planes, one during reconnaissance missions during World War II when he was flying mail routes in South America. It was just so exciting to imagine myself as the pilot in the Little Prince's story. And now back at home, even though this isn't really Little Prince related, it's still French related, so I'm saying it works. Making one of my absolute favorite dishes, definitely top 3, which is coq au vin, if I'm saying it right, and that is chicken and wine. And we have kind of our veggies here with mushrooms, nibellas, pearl onions, which I love, got some carrots, and then of course all the seasonings, as well as some red wine and bacon, and finally the chicken. I'll put a link down below so you too can enjoy this incredible dish. Here's a picture of what it looks like at the end, some parsley on the top. It is as good as it looks.